Primetime Players presents Suppressed Desires by George Cram Cook and Susan Glaspel. Our play takes place in an architect studio, part of a nicely furnished apartment in Lower Manhattan. The year is 1915. The room contains a large table, loaded at one end with serious-looking books and austere scientific journals. At the other end are architects' drawings, blueprints, etc. There's a breakfast table set for 3, but only 2 seated at it, namely Henrietta and Stephen Brewster.
Oh, it isn't the coffee, dear. There's nothing the matter with the coffee. There's something the matter with you.
There may be something the matter with my stomach.
Oh, your stomach. The trouble is not with your stomach, but with your subconscious mind.
Subconscious piffle.
Oh, Steve, you never used to be so disagreeable. You certainly have got some sort of complex. You're all inhibited. You're no longer open to new ideas. You won't listen to a word about psychoanalysis.
A word? I've listened to volumes.
You've ceased to be creative in architecture. Your work isn't going well. You're not sleeping well.
How can I sleep, Henrietta, when you're always waking me up in the night to ask me what I'm dreaming?
But dreams are so important, Steve. If you tell yours to Dr. Russell, he'd find out exactly what's wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Oh, you don't even talk like you used to.
Talk? I can't say a thing without you looking at me in that dark fashion you have when you're on the trail of a complex.
This very irritability indicates that you are suffering from some suppressed desire.
I'm suffering from a suppressed desire for a little peace.
Dr. Russell is doing simply wonderful things with nervous cases. Won't you go to him, Steve?
No, Henrietta, I won't.
Steven.
I hear Mabel coming. Let's not be at each other's throats the first day of her visit.
Good morning.
There you are, little sister.
Good morning, Mabel.
Oh, it's so good to have you with us. I was going to let you sleep, thinking you'd be tired after the long trip. Here, sit down. There'll be fresh toast in a minute, and will you have coffee or tea?
Oh, I have told you, Henrietta, don't get anything for me. I'm not eating any breakfast.
Not eating breakfast?
The psychoanalytical look.
Mabel, why are you not eating breakfast?
Why, no particular reason. I just don't care much for breakfast.
Did you sleep well last night?
Yes, I slept fine. But I did have the funniest dream.
And what did you dream, Mabel?
Look here, Mabel. Don't tell Henrietta your dreams. If you do, she'll find out that you have an underground desire to kill your father and marry your mother.
Oh, don't be absurd, Stephen Brewster. What was your dream, dear?
Well, I dreamed I was a hen.
Oh, a hen?
Yes, and I was pushing along through a crowd as fast as I could, but being a hen, I couldn't walk very fast. It was like having a tight skirt, and there was some sort of blue creature with a blue cap on, how mixed up dreams are. And it kept shouting after me saying, step hen, until I got all excited and just couldn't move at all.
You say you became much excited.
Oh, yes, I was in a terrible state.
Ah, this is significant.
She dreams she's a hen. She is told to step lively. She becomes violently agitated. What can it mean?
Mabel, do you know anything about psychoanalysis?
Oh, not much. No, it's something about the war, isn't it?
And not that kind of war.
I thought it might be the name of a new explosive.
It is.
You see, Henrietta, we do not live in touch with intellectual things as you do. Bob, being a dentist, somehow our friends.
Oh, to be a dentist.
Don't you ever see anything more of that editorial writer. What was his name?
Lyman Eggleston?
Yes, Eggleston. He was in touch with things. Don't you see him?
Yes, I see him once in a while. Bob doesn't like him very well.
Oh, your husband does not like Lyman Eggleston. Mabel, are you perfectly happy with your husband?
Oh, come now, Henrietta. Isn't that going a little strong?
Are you perfectly happy with him, Mabel?
Why, yes, I guess so. Well, of course I am.
Are you happy? Or do you only think you are? Or do you only think you ought to be?
Oh, Henrietta, I don't know what you mean.
Well, this is what she means, Mabel. Psychoanalysis. Freud, Jung, the Journal of Morbid Psychology. They're clogging up my work table.
But what's it all about?
It's about your non-conscious mind and desires you know not of. They might be doing you a very great deal of harm. You might go crazy with them. Oh, yes. People are doing it right and left. Oh, you're dreaming you're a hen?
Any fool can ridicule anything.
But what do you say it is, Henrietta?
Oh, if Henrietta's going to start that.
Well, it's like this, Mabel. You want something. You think you can't have it. You think it's wrong. So you try not to think about it. Your mind protects you by refusing to think of the forbidden thing. But it's there all the same. It stays there, shut in your unconscious mind, and it festers.
That's sort of like an ingrowing mental toenail.
Precisely. The forbidden impulses, they're full of energy, which has simply got to do something. It breaks into your consciousness in disguise, masks itself in dreams. In extreme cases, it can drive you insane.
Oh.
But psychoanalysis has found out how to save us from that. It brings into consciousness the suppressed desire that was making all the trouble. Psychoanalysis is simply the latest scientific method of preventing and curing insanity.
It's also the latest scientific method of separating families.
Families that ought to be separated.
The Dwights, for instance. You must have met them, Mabel, when you were here before. Helen was living, apparently, in peace and happiness with good old Joe. Well, she went to the psychoanalyzer. She was psyched, and biff bang, home she comes with an unsuppressed desire to leave her husband.
How terrible. Yes, I remember Helen Dwight, but did she have such a desire?
First she'd known of it.
And she left him?
Yes, she did.
Wasn't he good to her?
Good enough.
Wasn't he kind to her?
Oh, yes, kind.
And she left her good, kind husband.
Oh, Mabel, left her good, kind husband. Forgive me, dear, but how bourgeois you are. She came to know herself, and she had the courage.
I may be very bourgeois, but I don't see the good of a new science that breaks up homes.
In enlightening Mabel, we mustn't neglect to mention the case of Art Holden's private secretary, Mary Snow, who had just been informed of her suppressed desire for her employer.
Well, I think that is terrible, Henrietta. It would be better if we didn't know such things about ourselves.
No, Mabel, that is the old way.
But her employer? Is he married?
Wife and 4 children.
Well, then, what good does it do the girl to be told she has a desire for him when there's nothing that can be done about it?
Old institutions will have to be reshaped so that something can be done in such cases. This suppressed desire was on the point of landing Mary Snow in the insane asylum.
But if people always had these awful suppressed desires?
Always.
But they've just been discovered.
No, the harm they do has just been discovered, and free, sane people must face the fact that they have to be dealt with.
I don't believe they have them in Chicago.
Oh, people have them wherever the living libido, the center of the soul's energy, is in conflict with a petrified moral codes. That means everywhere in civilization. Psychoanalysis.
Oh, good God. I have got the roof in the cellar.
Oh, the roof in the cellar.
That's what psychoanalysis does.
Oh, that's what psychoanalysis could undo. Is it any wonder that I'm concerned about Steve? He dreamed the other night that the walls of his room melted away and he found himself alone in the forest. Don't you see how significant it is for an architect to have walls slip away from him? What it symbolizes his loss of grip in his work. There is some suppressed desire.
Oh, suppressed hell.
Oh, you speak more truly than you know. It is through suppressions that hells are formed in us.
Don't you think it would be a good thing, Henrietta, if we went somewhere else? Here, let me help you clear these plates. Oh, Henrietta, I'm sorry. One of the spode plates, too. Don't take it so to heart, Henrietta.
Can't help taking it to heart.
I'll get you another. I'll get you another plate, Henrietta.
It's not the plate.
For heaven's sakes, what is it then?
It's that significant little false movement that you made when you dropped it.
Well, I suppose everyone makes a false movement once in a while.
Yes, Mabel, but these false movements all mean something.
I don't think that's very nice. It was just because I happened to think of that Mabel Snow you were talking about.
Snow?
Snow. Well, what was her name then?
Oh, her name is Mary. Oh, you substituted your own name for hers.
Well, Mary Snow. Mary Snow then. I never heard her name but once. I don't see anything to make such a fuss about.
Mabel, dear, mistakes like that in names.
They don't mean something too, do they?
I'm sorry, dear, but they do.
But I'm always going to do that.
Oh, my poor little sister. Well, tell me about it.
About what?
About your not being happy. About longing for another sort of life.
But I don't.
Oh, I understand these things, dear. You feel Bob is limiting you.
Henrietta, when did I ever say such a thing?
You said that you are not in touch with things intellectual. You showed your feeling that it is Bob's profession that has engendered a resentment that has colored your whole life with him.
Well, Henrietta.
Oh, don't be afraid of me, little sister. There's nothing can shock me or turn me from you. I wanted you to come for this visit because I had a feeling that you needed more from life than you were getting. Not one of these things would excite my suspicion. It's the combination. Oh, you don't eat breakfast. You make false moves. You substitute your own name for the name of another whose love is misdirected. And this dream, a hen. Oh, come with me this afternoon to Dr. Russell.
Henrietta, you always were the smartest one in the family and all, but this is terrible. I don't think we ought to think such things. Well, I'll tell you why I had that dream I was a hen. It was because last night, tell me about that time in Chicago, you said I was mad as a wet hen.
Did you dream you were a wet hen?
No.
No. You dreamed you were a dry hen. And why, being a hen, were you urged to step?
Maybe it's because when I'm getting on a streetcar, it always irritates me to have them call, "Step lively."
No, Mabel, that is only a child's view of it. You see merely the elements that are used in the dream. You do not see into the dream. You do not see its meaning. This dream of the hen.
The hen, wet hen, dry hen, mad hen. Oh, let me out of this.
Just a minute, dear. We'll have things so you can work in quiet. Mabel and I are going to sit in my room.
I'm going to be psychoanalyzed. I'm going straight to that infallible doctor of hers, that priest of his new religion. If he's got honesty enough to tell Henrietta there's nothing the matter with my unconscious mind, perhaps I can be let alone about it, and then I will be all right. Don't tell Henrietta I'm going.
Where's Steve gone? Well, you see how impatient he is, how unlike himself. I tell you, Mabel, I am nearly distracted about Steve.
I think he's a little distracted too.
Well, I have a committee meeting and we'll have to leave you for an hour or two. Oh, here, dear, is one of the simplest statements of psychoanalysis. You just read this, and then we can talk more intelligently. Oh, by the way, how old is Lyman Eggleston?
He isn't 40 yet. Why? What made you ask that, Henrietta?
Oh, nothing. Au revoir.
The book. The plate. Am I unhappy?
What are you doing, my dear?
My paper for the New Women's Society.
Your paper on...
On a subject which does not have your sympathy.
I'm not sure I'm wholly out of sympathy with psychoanalysis, Henrietta. You worked at it so hard, I couldn't even take a bath without its meaning something.
I talked it because you needed it.
You haven't said much about it these last 2 weeks. Faith in it hasn't weakened any.
Weakened? Oh, it's grown stronger with each new thing I've come to know. And Mabel, she's with Dr. Russell now. From what Mabel tells me, I believe his analysis is going to prove that I was right. Today, I discovered a remarkable confirmation of my theory in the hen dream.
What is your theory?
Well, you know about Lyman Eggleston. I've wondered about him. I've never seen him, but I know he's less bourgeois than Mabel's other friends, more intellectual, and she doesn't see much of him because Bob doesn't like him.
But what's your confirmation?
Today, I noticed the first syllable of his name.
Lie?
No, egg. Mabel dreamed she was a hen. Well, you wouldn't laugh if you knew just how important names are in interpreting dreams. Freud is full of just such cases.
But doesn't the traditional relation of hen and egg suggest rather a maternal feeling?
There's something maternal about Mabel's love, of course, but it's only one element.
Well, suppose Mabel hasn't a suppressed desire to be this gentleman's mother, but his beloved.
Mm-hmm.
What's to be done about it? What about Bob? Don't you think it's gonna be a little bit rough on him?
Well, that can't be helped. Bob, like everyone else, must face the facts of life. If Dr. Russell should arrive independently at this same interpretation, I shall not hesitate to advise Mabel to leave her husband.
Mm-hmm. How long's it been since we've been here, Henrietta?
Why, this is the third year, Steve.
One would miss this place if one went away, wouldn't one?
How strangely you speak. Oh, Stephen, I wish you'd go to Dr. Russell.
Well, how long have we been married, Henrietta?
Oh, Stephen, I don't understand you. You must go to Dr. Russell.
I have gone.
You what?
Yes, Henrietta, I've been psyched.
You went to Dr. Russell?
The same.
And what did he say?
He said, Well, I was a little surprised by what he said, Henrietta.
Of course, one can so seldom anticipate. But tell me, Stephen, your dream, it means?
Well, it means, I was considerably surprised by what it means.
Oh, don't be so exasperating.
It means, you really want to know, Henrietta?
Steve, you'll drive me mad.
Well, he said, now, of course, he could be wrong in what he said.
He isn't wrong. Tell me.
He said my dream of the walls receding and leaving me alone in a forest indicates a suppressed desire.
Yes.
To be freed from...
Yes, freed from...
From marriage.
Marriage?
He may be mistaken, you know.
Oh, may be mistaken.
Well, of course, I hadn't taken any stock in it myself. It was only your great confidence.
Stephen, are you telling me that Dr. Russell, Dr. A.E. Russell, told you this? I told you you have a suppressed desire to separate from me?
That's what he said.
Did he know who you were?
Yes.
That you were married to me?
Yes, he knew that.
And he told you to leave me?
Oh, it seems he must be wrong, Henrietta.
Oh, and I have sent him more patients. What reason did he give for this analysis?
He said the confining walls are a symbol of my feeling about marriage and that their fading away is wish fulfillment.
Oh, well, is it? Do you want our marriage to end?
Well, it was a great surprise to me that I did, Henrietta. You see, I hadn't known what was in my unconscious mind.
Oh, what did you tell Dr. Russell about me to make him think that you weren't happy?
I never told him a thing, Henrietta. He got it all from his confounded clever inferences. I tried to refute them, but he said that was only part of my self-protective lying.
And that's why you were so happy when you came in just now.
Hey, Henrietta, how can you say such a thing? I was sad. Didn't I ask how long we had been married?
Oh, Stephen Brewster, you have no sense of the seriousness of this. Dr. Russell doesn't know what our marriage has been. You do. You should have laughed him down. Confided in life with me?
I very emphatically told him that his results were a great surprise to me.
But you accepted them.
Not at all. I couldn't refute his arguments. I'm not a psychologist. I came home to talk it over with you. You being a disciple of psychoanalysis.
If you are going, I wish you would go tonight.
Well, my dear, surely I couldn't do that. I think of my feelings. And my laundry hasn't come home.
I ask you to go tonight. Some women would falter at this, Steve, but I am not such a woman. I leave you free. I do not repudiate psychoanalysis. I say again that it has done great things. It has also made mistakes, of course. But since you accept this analysis, well, I have to finish my paper. I wish you would leave me.
I'm sorry, Henrietta, about my unconscious mind.
Henrietta, I'm so glad you're here and alone. Are you alone, Henrietta?
Very much so.
Henrietta, he's found it.
Who has found what?
Who has found what? Dr. Russell has found my suppressed desire.
Well, that is interesting.
He finished with me today. He got a hold of my complex in the most amazing way. But, oh, Henrietta, it is so terrible.
Do calm yourself, Mabel. Surely there's no occasion for all this agitation.
But there is. And when you think of the lives that are affected, the readjustments that must be made in order to bring the suppressed hell out of me and to save me from the insane asylum.
The insane asylum?
You said that's where these complexes brought people.
What did the doctor tell you, Mabel?
Oh, I don't know how I can tell you. It is so awful, so unbelievable.
Well, I'd rather have my hand at hearing the unbelievable.
Henrietta, who would have ever thought it? How can it be true? But the doctor is perfectly certain that I have a suppressed desire for...
Well, go on, Mabel. I'm not unprepared for what you have to say.
Not unprepared? You mean you have suspected it?
From the first. It's been my theory all along.
But Henrietta, I didn't know myself that I had a secret desire for Stephen.
Stephen?
My brother-in-law, my own sister's husband.
You have a suppressed desire for Stephen?
Oh, Henrietta, aren't these unconscious selves terrible? They seem so unlike us.
What insane thing are you driving at?
Henrietta, don't use that word to me. I don't want to go to the insane asylum.
What did Dr. Russell say?
Well, you see, oh, it's the strangest thing. But you know the voice in my dream that called Step Hen? Dr. Russell found out today that when I was a little girl, I had a storybook in words of one syllable, and I read the name Stephen wrong. I used to read it S-T-E-P, Step, H-E-N, Hen. Step Hen is Stephen. Stephen is Step Hen.
I Step Hen.
S-T-E-P, Step, H-E-N. Stephen.
What if Stephen is Step Hen? Step Hen, of all the ridiculous coincidences.
Coincidence? But it's childish to look at the mere elements of a dream. You have to look into it. You have to see what it means.
On account of that trivial, meaningless play on syllables, on that flimsy basis, you are ready to...
What on earth's the matter? What's happened? Suppose I am Step Hen. What about it? What does it mean?
It means I have a suppressed desire for you.
For me? The deuce you have. Well, what makes you think so?
Dr. Russell has worked it out scientifically.
Yes, through the amazing discovery that Step Hen equals Stephen.
Oh, that isn't all. That isn't near all. Henrietta won't give me a chance to tell it. She'd rather me go to the insane asylum than to be unconventional.
Well, we'll all go there if you can't control yourself. We're still waiting for some rational report.
Oh, there's such a lot about names. I don't see how I ever did it. It all works together. I dreamed I was a hen because the first syllable of Henrietta's name. And when I dreamed I was a hen, I was putting myself in Henrietta's place.
With Stephen?
With Stephen.
Oh, what are you doing with that timetable?
Well, I thought, you were so keen to have me go tonight, I thought I would just take a run up to Canada and join Billy, a little shooting.
But there's more about names.
Mabel, have you thought of Bob? Dear old Bob, your good, kind husband.
Oh, Henrietta, my good, kind husband.
Think of him, Mabel, out there alone in Chicago, working his head off, fixing people's teeth for you.
Yes, but think of the living libido in conflict with petrified moral codes. And think of the perfectly wonderful way the names all prove it. Just look at Stephen's last name, Brewster. I dream I'm a hen, and the name Brewster. You have to say its first letter by itself. And then the hen, that's me. She says to him, Stephen B. Rooster. I think it's perfectly wonderful. Why? If it wasn't for psychoanalysis, you'd never find out how wonderful your own mind is.
B. Rooster, Stephen B. Rooster.
You think it's funny, do you?
Well, what's to be done about it? Does Mabel have to go away with me?
Do you want Mabel to go away with you?
Well, but Mabel herself, her complex, her suppressed desire.
Mabel, are you going to insist on going away with Stephen?
I'd rather go with Stephen than go to the insane asylum.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Mabel, drop the insane asylum. If you did have a suppressed desire for Stephen hidden away in you, Oh, God knows it's not hidden now. Dr. Russell has brought it into your consciousness with a vengeance. Well, that's all that's necessary to break up a complex. Psychoanalysis doesn't say you have to gratify every suppressed desire.
Unless it's for Lyman Eggleston.
Well, if it comes to that, Stephen Brewster, I'd like to know why that interpretation of mine isn't as good as this one. Step hen.
But B. Rooster. Step hen, B. Rooster. Ah, and Henrietta, my dear, Doc Russell's got you beat a mile. B. Rooster.
What has Lyman Eggleston have to do with it?
Well, according to Henrietta, you, the hen, have a suppressed desire for Eggleston, the egg.
Henrietta, I think that's indecent of you. He is bald as an egg and little and fat. The idea of you thinking such a thing of me.
Well, Bob isn't little and bald and fat. Oh, why don't you stick to your own husband? What if Dr. Russell's interpretation has got mine beat a mile? It would only mean that Mabel doesn't want Eggleston and does want you. Does that mean she has to have you?
But you said Mabel Snow was
Mary Snow. You're not as much like her as you think, substituting your name for hers. But the cases are entirely different. Oh, I wouldn't have believed this of you, Mabel.
Oh, careful, dear. Your paper on psychoanalysis.
I don't want my paper on psychoanalysis. I'm sick of psychoanalysis.
Do you mean that, Henrietta?
Oh, why shouldn't I mean it? Look at all I've done for psychoanalysis, and what has psychoanalysis done for me?
Do you mean, Henrietta, that you're going to stop talking psychoanalysis?
Why shouldn't I stop talking about it? Haven't I seen what it does to people? Well, Mabel has gone crazy about psychoanalysis.
You swear never to wake me up in the night to find out what I'm dreaming?
Oh, dream what you please. I don't care what you're dreaming.
Will you clear off my work table so the Journal of Morbid Psychology doesn't stare me in the face when I'm trying to plan a house?
I'll burn the Journal of Morbid Psychology.
My dear Henrietta, if you're going to separate from psychoanalysis, there's no reason I should separate from you.
Oh.
But what about me? What am I to do with my suppressed desire?
Mabel, you just keep right on suppressing it.